Welcome to Make Lemonade, brought to you by Young Boss Media. Today is our Juneteenth edition, and we're here to discuss so many things that are going on in the Black community and what we need to build, talk about, heal, and change. So today is Juneteenth. So here's the history of Juneteenth. Many people believe the Emancipation Proclamation issued on January 1st, 1863, marked the end of slavery. And while it did mean freedom for many Black Americans, President Abraham Lincoln's executive order was defied in the Confederate state of Texas. So it wasn't until 1865 that Texas and all the people there even honored that slavery was abolished. So we celebrate this day so we can bring you some history and to show we still have power and we are some great people. So before we get into our discussion, I want to introduce my co-host for today. We have Money Management Queen Candace. We have mental health therapist Chantel Doswell. We have actress and comedian Trina B. Real. We have mental health therapist for the youth, Jasmine Below. We have event coordinator Jay Rose, and our Young Boss Media CEO Monica Grant will be coming through. Hey. How we doing, ladies? All right, I want to start with you first, Trina. How you feeling, girl?
I feel great, girl. You know, it's Juneteenth, blacker than black, blacker than black. So I'm feeling real great today. You know, it's my 4th of July, so I'm live over here.
Live. How you feeling over there, Jay Rose?
I'm good. Just, enjoying the attention that this day is finally getting, like, on a bigger scale. So it's like, it's really beautiful seeing everybody like truly like educating themselves.
Yes, definitely. It's so interesting that it's 2020 and people still don't know what Juneteenth is. That's why we're here. What's up, Jasmine?
Hey. I'm doing good. I'm actually celebrating today. There's a rally happening down the street from me. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to go down there. And then also I love film. So there's a new movie that came out, Miss Juneteenth. And the director and writer is a Black woman. And the actress is a Black woman. So I'm excited to see it. It just came out today. So that's what my day is going to be.
All right. What's up with you, Queen Candace?
I am feeling great. I'm feeling awesome. All of the unity and all of the buying Black is a beautiful thing to see. And I'm just hoping, as usual, that this is not a passing thing and that we continue to do this, because Juneteenth is one day, but all of this buying Black and this unity got to continue past today. So.
Exactly. How are we doing over there, Chantel?
You know, it's Black over here. We just staying Black on this side. I'm excited for this though. I'm excited to get into this conversation for Juneteenth. So I'm not gonna even hold you up.
Hey, what's good, Monica Grant?
Listen, I'm so happy it's Juneteenth. I feel like this is the most celebrated Juneteenth I've ever experienced. I went from Harlem to downtown in Chelsea. I'm seeing Juneteenth all over New York City, and my edges are growing back. Sorry, barbers, I cannot come back to you. I appreciate my edges rising like the Atlantis. So, Black girl rocking all day out here. We got the Black girl magic on the screen. So I'm just blessed right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's get into it, ladies. I didn't miss anybody. I got everyone. Okay, so a few of us are going to be jumping in and out. So just know if you see somebody jump out, they're going to be coming back in. Okay, so let's get into it. We got a few topics that we want to talk about today. So I'm going to just roll them down so we know what the agenda is today, because today we want to talk about action and what we can do so we can move forward. So we're going to talk about Black dissonance. We're going to talk about buying Black. We're going to talk about breathe, mental health. And when we say mental health, you guys, it's not just for white people, it's for us too, okay? Because some people don't understand that mental health is very important. And then we also want to talk about buying back the block, okay? Yes, we got to buy back the block if we want to have power, okay? Owning our own schools. because they're not giving us the correct information. They're even changing stuff and turning it into indentured servants. Okay, so we got to own our own schools. Then we got to develop a community action plan. So we look forward to hearing some responses from you. If you're in our message board, please join the conversation. We would love to hear from you. And I'm going to start. So our first topic is Black dissonance. So I'm going to start with Chantel.
So I think there's been a real obvious show of disagreement and all sorts of stuff recently, because Black Lives Matter now has been trending for, it's almost been a month, y'all. I don't know if you could believe it, right? So we've had a month worth of protests now. And so every issue's coming up in the book. Some people think that it's harmful. I personally think, right, that one of the things that it shows is we don't just need to be in the streets. We also need to really be able to make sure that we understand how we got here, what our history is, that we're doing our work to really understand as a community when we're getting messages, where are those messages coming from? Because a lot of the times, even in the infighting, you hear repeated messages that are actually racist messages. So it's interesting because you have to wonder, when things are anti-Black and they don't work for us, when there's dissonance in the community, where does the message really come from and who does it serve? So all the time, I'm always trying to get the education piece of, let's just look up our sources. Let's look up where we're getting our information from. Let's understand our history. And even when we're saying things like gayness is a white thing, like, do we really know the history on if that's really true? Or are we just saying that because that's something that we've been told, So I think that that's one of the things that, in terms of action steps around this, there definitely, hopefully, will be a lot of initiatives to put in educational programs for folks to really learn about American history holistically. Because right now, you can tell people are getting away with murder because people don't even know their own history. They don't even know what their own culture and their own history looks like. So that's my 2 cents on it. That's kind of the part that I think, in addition to the policy and the action for the systemic stuff, that we as individuals could definitely take a step in that direction, because we, just like everybody else, don't learn Black history. We got to teach ourselves and learn through, intention. So I think we got to start making that a real effort to make that systemic, not just an individual thing.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Chantel. I definitely agree with you. Let's move on to J. Rose. I see you shaking your head. What's up, J. Rose?
Chantel just always like hits the nail on the head with a lot of the issues. So I'm always shaking my head at her like, yes, girl. But it's just really the fact that now a lot of these conversations are happening. People are realizing, you can't avoid the conversation anymore. And racism and everything that's going on in this country and this happens all over the world. It's not easy to talk about. It's something that's really heavy. And people are finally understanding and accepting that. So it's time for us now to take those conversations and create some solutions and take some action and see a change. We're in the beginning of that chain reaction. We're right now in the conversation part of the formula. And the next is the understanding. The more we talk about it, the more people are understanding. There's people out there that, not for nothing, are still racist, but there's little pieces of what we're saying, what we've been saying, that are starting to seep into their minds, and it's starting to really sink in. This is some real messed up stuff that's going on. So we just have to continue talking about that. So whether it's difficult, whether we're in denial, we just have to continue having these conversations so there's more understanding.
Most definitely. We definitely do have to keep having these conversations and empathize, and have compassion for each other, because, that's very important. And I even know for myself, I grew up differently. I grew up with a father and mother that are very Black, pride, powerful type of people. So I had to write reports and learn about things at a very small age. And then I went to a Jewish school where I was the only Black girl, and it was called Move Out the Way Black Girl. And then all my friends in the dance community were, still trying to figure out their identity. And so at this day, I'm finding out people who are 60 years old didn't even know about the Black Wall Street. You know, we're in 2020. And my first response is like, and so I had to be like, hold on, let me back up here. Let me just give you a little response to that, okay? So, yeah, definitely us having, I feel just more compassion and empathy for us. Yes, Jay Rose.
No, I just, I really took some time to like sit back and think of even when I grew up in Queens. And I remember like I didn't have a lot of like Black or even Latino like teachers. I had a lot of white teachers, and I'm literally now 30, about to be 38 years old, and still trying to remember how many Black or Latino teachers I had. And honestly, I can't even like, I could probably think of a few that I knew that worked in the school, but weren't actually teachers of mine. And for me, like, I'm thinking about like how that may have like affected me growing up, or how I looked at information, or who I believe or respect information from. You know what I mean? Like, it really makes me like reevaluate a lot of what, things that may have like subconsciously affected me.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Monica, you want to add to that?
Yes, I agree with Jay Rose. So my mother moved us to South Carolina from Michigan when I was like 5 years old, and so all of my classes were white, not because it was a white town, but because she made sure that I was in the education system. That's where I saw racism in the education system live, because I'm not the only Black person in the school. I'm not the only smart Black person in the school. But because my mother just made sure that I took a test and I was in this class, I saw the division. And so while some of my peers that I go back to school or go home with on the bus, they're being put in the general education courses, while I'm being prepped for college, and I'm being prepped doing pre-law. That's when I really became like an activist, because I'm not the white people's Black representative, and they tried to play me for that. And so like Amina, like my father's from Detroit, like, Black man in a beautiful Black city. I got that running through my veins. Like, ain't no way I'm about to be your Black representative, because if I am, I'm the angry Black woman. And so in high school, I was angry Black woman. I had a little spray paint t-shirt that said angry Black woman. That's who I was to them, because I just wasn't having it. So I always knew I'm going to an HBCU. I'm getting the heck out of here. And so it does change you depending on who your teachers are. And I know we're going to talk about schools. It's so important to have a person that looks like you, because they influence how you see the world.
Exactly. I agree. Totally agree. Trina, would you like to add to that?
I agree with both of you guys. Luckily I grew up down in the South, so I saw a lot of Black and Black people. And it was rare to see white people. Actually was rare for me, as having like white teachers and stuff like that. So it was like, they were like a commodity, like, oh, they were nicer to me. I was like, oh my God, like, because what I look back now is that they were getting to know us as we were getting to know them. And so they were coming into a new neighborhood. So if you think back now, as I look back, this was a new experience for a lot of them, being young teachers, dealing with the African-American students who are coming from broken homes, some of them, dealing with issues that you normally don't have to deal with, that we know of. Now we know that Tim and them didn't eat, but sometimes, we saw more of that in our community, where the houses, we didn't have breakfast, or they didn't have lunch, or some kids didn't have that option. You know what I mean? Coming from a broken home. So to see, where I was at, we had white people that were poor too. So it wasn't just Black people that was poor. It was like, it was everybody was a little poor. So we all kind of melted together. And that's the one thing I can say, growing up in a military town, growing up in Virginia, is that you didn't really understand, like, if we all shopped at Kmart, we shopped at Kmart. You got to levels of shopping when your parents got levels of money, right? So as, looking back at my life, I think I was just happy to be a kid back then. I didn't have a whole bunch of comparisons because I didn't have the internet. I'm so glad I grew up in my era before, social media, because you know we were just kids. So a lot of things that we deal with now and being Black, we didn't really see a lot of. Our parents probably dealt with it, but we didn't see it then, right? We see it more now than anything. And I think when I got older is when I wanted to know more about my Blackness coming to New York from the South. I wanted to know, like, you know, did I come from a slave or am I really a queen? You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to understand, and I joined the United African Movement. You know, when I got, you know, like you said, people, when you get here, you seek out more knowledge if you didn't have it, because you want to understand who you are, so you know where you're going.
Well, it's so interesting, Trina, because I know I moved here from DC, and for some reason, there was something about moving to New York City that made me feel like if I was a part of this Blackness, the definition they had up here, that I was poor, that I was good, that I was aggressive. Like I never in my life had thought of it that sort of black and white. Like I'd never really thought of it. But then when I heard that the school system's the most segregated in the entire country, I was like, well, okay, so I guess it's not just me. Something is going on. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is that makes New York feel like that. But you can.
It's a heartbeat. I think it's the rhythm. It's the rhythm of outside, like that neighborhood. Like you go outside, and every hood has their own culture and their own vibration and their own, like. To me, that's what I felt like living in Harlem. I felt like I lived in Mount Vernon and I lived in Jersey and but like living in Harlem, that Black on like seeing your Blackness and knowing and feeling proud, like to wear your nappy hair and people looking at you saying, can I touch it? I'll never forget when I went natural and white women used to say, can I touch it? And I'm like, touch what? They were like, your hair. I'm like, my hair? You want to touch my hair? Why you want to touch my hair? And they was like, it looked like it's soft. And I'm like, it is soft. You know, but it's just weird. Like, you know, you come and you have that experience and you're like, wow, like, you know, like growing up, you just didn't understand what it felt like to be Black, and being in New York, you feel like it's okay to be Black. Like, no matter how Black you are, no matter, you can get blacker than Black and you're going to be all right.
That's the one thing I love.
I agree.
When I moved to New York, that was such a, you know, and LA is Leimert Park. You know what I mean? If you in Leimert Park, then you're cultured. You know what I mean? And then I went to school in San Francisco, so Oakland got their community as well. So being from LA, doing the African dance within the community, that's very small, because LA growing up was about gang culture. You know, so everybody's about gang culture. Either you're a Crip or you're a Blood. You know what I mean? And originally with the gangsters, they were supposed to protect their neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a small portion of us that were woke before woke became like Coachella, you know, before it became a popular situation. But I know once I got to New York, like I was like, wow, you know, especially being in the commercial industry as a Black girl, as a brown-skinned Black girl, I had to wear, you know, the weave and the straight weave. I couldn't put anything on my nails, you know what I mean? It was just always this. When I got to New York, I saw these beautiful Black people with the hair, the natural hair. However, since we're on this topic, there's an issue there's a friction with Black Americans, Caribbeans, and Africans in New York. And that was something that I had to understand, because in LA, you Black. You know, Black, Mexican, you Asian, you white. When I got to New York, it was like, oh, where you from, or what's your culture? And, you know, I grew up around a lot of West Indians, so I was called a Yankee as a kid, and that was a negative thing. You know what I mean? So when I got to New York, that's the one thing I had a problem with. I love the culture, but I don't like the whole, you're from here, or you're lazy, or, you know, I don't like that shit. And I feel like since it's Juneteenth, that's something as a Black community, first of all, like the Caribbeans coming here, they look at us this way, but then the Africans feel they're better than all of us because, you know, it's like, we don't all know, obviously we all don't know our history. And I feel that's why I say as Black people, we have to empathize for each other because we know our history. So it's like, I feel like to me, it's appalling that it's still a problem, because we all should know our history by now. And if we all know our history, then we shouldn't be going back and forth like that. And just like Haitians shouldn't be at the end for the West Indian parade, you know, then that's another problem right there. So we all love being Black, but that is a major, major issue, like, that I'm always advocate for, that I have no tolerance for that. And we have to not do that shit anymore. Or, you know.
You mean, and that's what I was actually talking about. Like, when I came from DC, the thing I noticed was how racialized New York was. Like, it wasn't that people were just white anymore. People are Polish and Russian and Haitian and Jamaican and African, and everybody had a stereotype for each group that was specific, because each group is so segregated in where they sort of exist in the city, and everybody knows what neighborhood's what, right? Like, I live in the Heights, who lives here? Dominicans. I live in Brighton Beach, who lives there? Russians. We know it. And then people just talk about each other in a way I hadn't heard before.
Yeah.
And it was actually a little crazy to me, because I was like offended for people. I was like, you can't be talking about Jewish people like that. You can't be talking about Black people like that. You can't be doing that. Like, because where I'm from, you know, it's a little too Southern for people to just be hopping out and saying stuff like that without everybody being like, hey. Like, hello to Mason. We don't do that over here, right? It's blackity black. We don't do that over here. You better stay politically correct, because that's how we do it. But in New York, people are like, gloves off. And that's why when people thought Donald Trump wasn't racist because he was from Queens, I was like, y'all clearly ain't been to Queens. Y'all clearly don't know that people can be racist from all types of places that are diverse.
Right. Definitely. Monica wants to add on to that.
Yeah, so I agree with you, you and Trina. So I came to New York because living in Atlanta, when you meet people from New York, they're like, yo, you got to be in the planet. What's up, Queen? Peace, sister, goddess of the earth. Da, 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 da. And so they're giving you so much knowledge. It's like, I got to be there. Oh my goodness, I got to be there. I love this. But then when I got here, it was like, oh, they all moved. They're all in Atlanta. And like, I didn't get that piece. What's up, Queen? What's going on? It's like, nah, move, nigga. Like, that's what I got, you know? And that was a shocker, you know? And then what you're talking about, the division between groups. To be like African-American descendants of slaves in New York is rare. We are a minority amongst minorities because there's so many immigrant groups coming in that are here, that to be just, I'm from Michigan. And for that to be it, for you not to have no Caribbean roots or anything else, you know, we're a minority within a minority, and you still have to fight for that identity to exist. You know, and I definitely didn't know what a Dominican was until I got here. And then to see what kind of issues they got amongst themselves.
And Haitians.
And Haitians, that's a whole different, you know, racial factory. You know, so New York is a weird place to be in, but from the outside, it's like, oh, everybody woke, peace, Black people. But you get here and it's like, nah, there's a lot of infighting.
It's a lot of what they call fake hotep. It's a lot of fake woke. You know what I'm saying? And to me, if you're a real woke Black person, you won't be saying, oh, they Jamaican, so they like that. Oh, they ain't shit because they African American. Then you're not effing woke. That's fake wokeness to me. J Rose, somebody else Trina wanted to add into that.
I'm gonna say a lot of times, being in New York, and like Monica was saying, you're dealing with so many different, nationalities, and you got the Africans and you got the Caribbeans, but when it all stems back to the linkage, where it all rolls back down, it all goes back. And I hate for people to not want to deal with that whole truth. We all go all the way back down to Africa. So we might as well just go and look at the truth, that the ships that when people was jumping off and we got rid of and was rolled to and went to, we all moved on. And that's how you got Dominicans, and that's how you got Haitians, and because all those little strong, that one drop created all these different roots of people. And so we've been separated to make one feel inferior and one is better than, especially like the Dominicans and the Puerto Ricans, they got it real bad. Like, oh, and I'm like, wait a minute, y'all real close. And like, how y'all hating on each other and thinking one is dirty? I'm like, for real though? Like, but then that's like the light-skinned, dark-skinned African-American woman. Like, how many times have we had to deal with that? You know, I mean, I'm a fairly pecan-tan sister myself, and I'm always chosen to have, you know, an issue with sisters of another color or sisters lighter than me. You know, it can go either way. You know, it's depending on, it even can be financial status. You have some people feeling that I am here, darling, and you are there. And you should be here, and I am there. And I'm like, honey, I am always here because I'm rich in here. And you don't have that. So until your soul get to where my soul at, we ain't even on the same level, boo. Because I'm always going to be here because I'm a queen all the time. You know?
Yeah. And on top of that, before I jump to the next person, here's another last little what I would like us to comment on, okay? Because Trina is right. When, like, especially when it comes to the Afro-Latinos or people who don't want to say they black and they say I'm mixed, let's get this all together. All of us are effing mixed, okay? All of us got other stuff going on. Whether you're in America, you're in the Caribbean, you're in the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico or Cuba or in Africa. We're all mixed with other shit. So get it out your brain that you're not black because you're mixed. We all been raped. So every time that you say I'm mixed, you are honoring the white man that raped your great-great-great-grandmother. So think about that the next time you want to be like, oh, I'm European. That European was sticking his cock up our ancestors, and then you're here against her will. So I'm going to keep it real. This is the shit I teach in my class. I teach this in my class. This ain't nothing new. So get over it. All right, go over to Queen Candace.
So I just want to add in the Caribbean commentary coming from a family who's from Barbados. So there's this really big thing about, you know, there was a shift, right? So when I was younger, I had to conceal my Caribbean roots, right? So it was never a good thing to be a Caribbean until about, like, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years ago when soca started getting poppin'. And all of the actual artists started to go mainstream. Now it's cool to be Caribbean. Now it's like, well, if you don't come from a Caribbean country, then you're not lit kind of situation. Like, oh, you're only black? You don't have nothing else in there? Oh, you're from Africa kind of thing. So I just want to make the commentary that people forget that we were called craziness too when we were younger. It wasn't just, you know, if you was from Africa, it was African booty scratcher, right? So like this whole commentary has shifted in the past, like I want to say decade, right? But growing up, I never could say, oh yeah, I'm Bayesian American. They'd be like, ew, you got off the boat. You don't really know nothing. You illiterate. Go back to your island. It was all of that. So I never could say yes with pride. I'm Bayesian. Like I didn't even actually step foot on my island until I was 22 years old. Like. So there's also the Caribbean issue of saying, well, damn, I can't even be proud until like 10 years ago, right? So also that kind of infighting and the whole, you know, African booty scratcher thing that used to be out there when we were younger as well.
Right. And you want to know something? Let's remember that was not planted by us. Mm-hmm. When I went to school with Jewish folks, and white folks and Asian folks, and I had them brandy box braids. They said, are those dookie braids? Does that mean you have dookie and horsehair in your hair?
Exactly.
And I would have my African print. Okay, somebody just left a comment. Let me read it. Yamina, are you saying our grandparents were raped by whites a long time ago? They tasted it black. We are probably okay. What you asking me? Yes, I'm saying that white folks raped our grandmother. I'm not, you know, I'm just saying, I think that's what you asked me, but that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? My grandparents are from the South. My grandmother was a cotton picker. They had a cotton farm, and she left Mississippi because she didn't want to be around segregation at 14, so she lied. since she was 18 and moved to Los Angeles. My other grandmother's from Mississippi. They moved from Mississippi to Chicago to Los Angeles and never returned. So these things that I'm saying ain't just coming from my mouth. It's coming from my family and people that I know from generations that talk this down our line. So we know who the hell we are. That was the answer. Yes, Chantel.
Yamina, I think that one of the things that you just were able to do, I hope everybody who's watching can do exactly what Yamina just did. If they know their grandparents are coming from somebody, they know their story, because you just ran that down, right? You see that grounding that gave you just now. I'm proud of you, girl. I was happy to hear that. But also, every culture that hides Blackness, there's a community survival mechanism to that. So up until 2020, it may not have been appropriate for people in Dominican Republic. It may not have been appropriate for people, in South America to be able to really say, these are the Black people in our family. We're Black, because there's consequences, legal and otherwise, to admitting that there is Blackness in your family. So if you can pass, like my great-great-grandfather, you write white when you can, right? And then you tell everybody, remember that we're white and this is the person who's white. And I get that your family was trying to protect you, but don't ever think that they're wrong for wanting to protect you from the scourge of fucking white supremacy, right? That being said, it's time to learn the history now. Now that you can live and have a little space to breathe, like, let's just own it, folks. Let's stop giving the messages that white people gave us about what it means to be, real and whole and worth something, because now we don't need that to survive anymore. Well, we kind of do, but we got to be able to be proud of what we really are. Because that hiding, that's definitely just a symptom. That's definitely just a symptom of feeling like if you are Black, there will be consequences. And that's just colonialism all over the place.
Absolutely. So I want to add on. So my great lineage goes back to Lucy Blackburn. And the Blackburn last name comes from Master Sidney Blackburn in Perry, Alabama. And I can actually I can go to his burial site right now. And his descendants went on to create these funeral parlors where, guess where he started practicing how to bury people? They started funeral parlors in Arkansas and Mississippi. So I could directly say, like, that's my money, nigga. That's my money. You feel me? But also, like, the thing about America is that, like, a lot of this is white people trying to deny that we ain't cousins. Like, there's a lot of this in America, like, where it's a civil war for real, because we are all mixed together. We cousins. So how y'all living is a slice of ours that we need to take. And so that's why I'm always for the reparations conversation, because Master slept with all of us. So yeah, Master got some child support issues. He need to pay up. Sorry, white women, if y'all don't like what y'all man was doing, you should have told him to keep it in his pants. You should have cut it off like Loretta Bobbitt. You should have held it down. You wasn't holding it down. And so now we coming for our child support, but not just the one child, but the other child, another child, other child, other child. Listen. And if it ain't the child support, it's a labor issue. But either way it goes, I want my money, because you had your kids working for free. So America, what's gonna be? What it's gonna be? I want my money. That's all. Come on, Trina, talk it up. Trina.
I'm with you. I'm saying, listen, they found stimulus now for all this. Listen, where's the reparation? Since we know that Black Lives Matter, since we know that Black Lives Matter is not ran by a Black life that matters, I think we need to go and find out, sit down with those people, right? Since they running and having all these organizations and they giving all these people this willy-nilly willpower to have opportunities to help people that's not helping us, right? There's enough women, there's enough things that we could be looking at. Like, one, for instance, I know half of us got student loan debts that should be wiped away instantly, being a Black African American, because our great-grandparents never got their reparation. Our great-great-grandparents never got their reparation. So half of us are owed a couple of years of reparation from all the ancestral reparations that never got passed off, right? So there is no way they can't say that, what can they do for us? Okay, how about bring back real Black history into the school system and have us learning about who we are and where we really come from. And we all didn't start out as slaves. Okay, Kunta Kinte was not all our cousins, okay? Some of us came here with gifts and talents. How about maybe let's even look back at when we do start our own communities and we don't want to look at television and things that are keeping our minds encrypted and dumbed down, right? Why then they want to say we're a cult? So what is that about? That when we do take on our blackness and we don't want to do the traditional black things, then we become a cult because now we're not living up the traditional American way of life, right? So let's talk about those points. Like, so what are the barriers of being a good citizen, a Black American, and what are gonna be our benefits going forward? That's what I really want to know.
All right, that's why we're going to talk about an action plan at the end of this whole discussion. So everybody, as we're asking these questions, let's think about our action plan for after we go through all of this. So let's move it on. Thank you, ladies, for adding in on this part of the topic. I think this is something that needs to continue to be discussed because what these issues we have are very much ingrained in us and our people. So as we are leaders in our community, we have to continue to teach and educate and make aware so we can be stronger as a people overall. And for y'all Black people who feel like I'm not a part of this movement, I am part of this movement, look, your skin is Black, so whether you like it or not, you are part of it. So anyways, moving on. So this has been talked about a while. I've been seeing a whole lot of hashtags, which I think is really awesome, but I hope that we actually do it, which is called Buy Black. We're all talking about buying Black. So when I look for products, I look to see if the owner is a Black business owner. So I hope other people are doing the same, but we're going to talk about buying Black. So what does buying Black mean to you? I'm going to start with you, Jasmine.
Hey guys. So as far as buying Black, to me, it's just making sure that I'm putting the money in my pocket into somebody else's pockets that's also somebody of color. So whether that's Latino, because I'm Afro-Latina myself, I'm Panamanian, so I don't mind if they're Latino. It's just somebody that, is of color so that we're helping each other grow. The saddest thing to me, like when this whole thing was happening was like, maybe it's a little dramatic, but I was kind of sad because I do my own hair. So there's a beauty supply store that I usually go to, and I'm like a pretty reliable customer basically. And all of the other stores that were like on Main Street, it's like a huge street full of stores. All of them had like Black Lives Matter posters in the front, but that was like the only place that didn't. So for me, it just like hit me like, this is a beauty supply store where like 99% of their customers are Black women, but they had nothing to say about the protests at all in comparison to places that have nothing to do with Black people, and they were still able to put up the posters. So like it just showed me like how important it is to make sure that you're putting your money into other Black people's pockets, because when something like this happens, they can very easily just kind of separate from us, and it's not really an issue because it's like they already got our money, their store is up and running, and there's nothing we can really do. So I feel like we just need to know from now on like how to continue.
Okay. Thank you. I agree with you. Let's go to Queen Candace because she's our money queen. So what does buying Black mean to you?
So I agree with the lovely Jasmine. It's basically just making sure that you support and create, and what we're creating, right, is the Black Wall Street. We're creating the Black ecosystem. We're becoming an independent entity that resides within, the majority, right? And so circulating the dollars means that you have to keep it within the community. So generally speaking, our dollars usually leave within like 6 minutes of us getting it, right? Whereas others, their dollars literally circulate for like months at a time before they decide, okay, well, I really can't find whatever I'm looking for here. I'll go elsewhere. But we don't do that. We immediately discredit our own businesses and decide, you know what? Nah, I'm going to go to white business because they know what they're doing, right? So buying Black is not only bringing in and keeping our dollars here, it's switching that mindset shift, right? So not thinking that, oh, well, that Black business is less than their white counterpart just because of the color of our skin, right? So understanding that we're great business owners as well. Yes, you may have a bad interaction with a Black business, but running on social media and dragging them down is not the way to go, right? You can always hit them up in the DM and be like, bruh, I'm going to I may not patron you ever again, but I love you and I want to make sure that you win. So I'm going to tell you my experience with your business and how you can shift that so that you keep the rest of your customers going forward, right? So doing those little kinds of things, right? So it's all about mindset shift as well as creating that ecosystem and keeping the dollars in our community.
Awesome, definitely. Y'all heard it from Queen Candace, so she be giving us a real when it comes to that change. Not just the change, just overall, she be bringing us the real. Thank you so much for that, Candace. Yes. So we're gonna move on to J Rose. J Rose, what you got for me, girl?
Well, I just want it's just to piggyback off of Queen Candace, like her saying how it's a different way of thinking. It is, because a lot of times we look at it and we're like, let's buy black so we can punish white people, right? Let's buy black so the white people can suffer, monetarily. But like, here we are again, making it about them when it's not about them. So, buying black is making it about us, about creating generational wealth. Like there's a reason why certain neighborhoods, children in certain neighborhoods cannot prosper or don't have the same opportunities. They've got to work twice as hard or 4 times as hard to get the same opportunities as other neighborhoods, and a lot of that has to do with how the habits that we create. Like I from young, I think we learn as, children of color that like being in debt is normal. And that's, that's because mama always owe money. Daddy got the bill collectors calling. Don't answer the phone for them people. Don't tell them we home. And we learn that as children. And then we accept that as adults. So, buying black is breaking that generational curse that's been passed down for hundreds of years to us and saying, no, we're gonna support each other and create generational wealth within our own community. Like who's to say that we can't? Like, why people think that going to a white business is better because they have more money to spend on like better quality stuff. That's like some sick shit that is embedded in our minds. If we stop thinking that and understand and respect each other and respect each other's like decisions as business owners, we can actually get somewhere here. That's what buying black is about. It's not about punishing white people. Like, it's not about them. It's about us.
Yes, Trina.
Yeah. All I want to say is one thing, being that for the last 3 years, I've worked at a black business. And one of the things that was disheartening for me is seeing young black people come into it 20s, 30s, and they felt like, things that they would do there, they know they wouldn't do at a white establishment. And it's like, why is it that because it's owned by someone black, you don't take that same pride? Like when I go to work, I take pride like it's mine. I don't care if it's black, white, green, whoever owns it. When I go to work, my mama told me if I'm going to be a burger maker, be the best burger maker there is, right? So I don't care wherever I go, whether you're black, white, green, Indian, I work for some of the best. You know what I mean? But color didn't make me do my job well. What made me do my job well was who I was as a person. And I think what happens so often and what I see in black businesses, and is not really fair to the owners of the businesses, is the people that they hire sometimes are not a reflection, because that's not who shows up at the interview. That person that shows up at the interview is saying, give me a chance. That person that shows up at the interview says, I'm going to do my job well. That person that shows up at the interview says, I'm going to be the best at it. And then you give them all of that and they let you down every time. And I want to know, what is that in us that we will go and work hard for somebody that doesn't give a damn about us, but the people that will make sure you got food, clothing, and shelter, that represent who you are. What is that about us that we don't take that same pride to be on work on time, stay and work late, all those things that you do for the other people? Why you can't do that for the people that look like you?
I like to add to that, because Trina, woo, child, you hit a nail.
Girl.
Okay? I mean, I almost want to shed a tear when you say that. I've been running my business for about 10 years. It's been an LLC. First it was a DBA, then I did trademarks, and then it was LLC. My whole objective was to provide opportunities for Black people and people of color. See, we got to say that, okay? I'm sorry for for people of color. Black people and people of color. Because people of color are also prejudiced against black people. So that's why I say black people and people of color. Okay, so let's not wash this shit down. Because I feel like when we say people of color, other people of color be like, yeah, we're fighting for you too, but we're fighting for y'all, but y'all ain't fighting for us. Because when we come in your community, you be looking at us crazy. Okay, anyways. Every single time I have brought so many people in, black people, my people, and they come in, they have, and I don't want to yell and make us look bad, because I don't like to, I know other people are watching, I don't like to talk too much about our shit in front of white folks, but anyways, but we're going to keep it real, because I'm talking to y'all. I've had...
But white folks don't watch my shit. White folks ain't watching. They're not watching.
White folks watch my shit too, and so you know what I mean. Everybody watch my shit. I'm an eclectic type of woman, you know. I got everybody.
Me too, but after a while, they stop watching. They know better.
But y'all gotta remember,
your thing.
I talk about this shit in my shows, after shows. This ain't something I just come on here and talk. Like I live what the fuck I say, and I don't really like to say F, but I live what I say. I produced a red light special, Night of Urban Burlesque. I started doing the show within the black community, right? And then I switched it over to, I did it in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy. And then I took it to Bushwick. I received so much of a better response when I took my product out of the black community, and the black community had to come and watch the show. Because when they come and watch the show, they want a discount. They want to touch our ass. The guys are not professional, and I feel like shit afterwards. You know what I'm saying? And people that I have hired, black people that I have hired, majority have tried to steal my business, steal my name, talk bad on my name when they're fired, because I caught them in some fuck shit. So let me talk about, well, black folks, when you get caught up in some fuck shit, don't try to turn around and mess up a black woman's name. It's usually a black woman's name because you mad because you got caught. That's issues that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and that shit has to stop. This is Juneteenth. If you are a part of a black-owned business and you know you are doing fuckery, go fix yourself. Go fix yourself, then come to me. Then come to Chantel. Then come to Monica Grant. Then come to Trina. Then come to J. Rose. Then come to Queen Candace. Well, you know, maybe some of them might want to deal with some of y'all basic mofos. I ain't got time for y'all, because I spend too much money. I ain't got time for the basic black folks, because the basic black folks, you got to get it together, okay? Fix that shit. All right. Chantel wanted to add.
So since we're talking about this, so there's two things that I feel like happen that are just kind of, we got to stop doing it. One, we devalue things that are black. So if we see it, right, we don't think it's worth as much as something that's white. But we also overvalue things that are white, because there's actually no reason why, if a white person moves into your neighborhood, that neighborhood should become unaffordable for the average person. That's overvaluing white life. That's not just valuing it. If we're talking about living wages and we're talking about being able to live in a community where you can work, people of color have to live in major cities, because that's where opportunities are for us. So the idea that all of a sudden when people say, you know, I want to move to the city, and they're white, all of a sudden the city becomes unaffordable, that's because we overvalue white neighborhoods. It's not because we undervalue black ones. So we got to change the conversation, right? Stop centering the idea that it's always that, you know, we need to talk about what the black people are doing. Why do we charge so much for white shit? Why all of a sudden, when it's white luxury, when it's a white neighborhood, when it's a white mall, when it's a white movie theater, is it okay to start being absorbent and not affordable and out of reach? And then we as black people go over there and act like we need to meet their standard, right? Instead of really just realizing, like, no, this is not the standard. This is their standard. Their culture isn't worth more than mine. Individuality is not worth more than community focus just because white people value it. And so that kind of stuff really starts to be like, look at it, people. We overvalue and overpricing white stuff just because it's white. And then when we start to ask ourselves, well, you think you're white? You think you can do this? You're not white, you know. We just reinforce with each other that we're not supposed to do things in a way that really meets our own standard, because black people won't show up somehow, right, for you if you don't seem like you're doing things black enough. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't just say, hey, we don't value each other. We overvalue white people. We overvalue the things that happen. And I mean, like, it's not even livable in America because white people want to make it exclusive enough for whiteness to exist without other people coming into their world. That's a problem.
That's a great point that you say that we overvalue white, because that, you know, that, and it goes in all of the communities. You know what I mean? It goes, if you look at African American community, the Caribbean community, the African community, we all kind of value white people on a different kind of scale. You know what I mean? And it's really interesting to watch. So I think that's a good point that you put out there, and keep putting that out there, Chantel, because people need to keep hearing it. And we have to, you know, sometimes you got to say things 3 times to get it in somebody's brain. You know what I mean? And for me as a businesswoman, I had to remind myself too, you know, but someone has told me, okay, this is a little side. People might not be happy about what I'm about to say, but you know, I'm gonna say it. Somebody has suggested to me one time, charge white people $20 extra per dollar, especially for black products.
I think that's illegal.
I mean, I'm saying somebody said that. I can say it. I'm saying, how can we get our reparation if we ain't getting our reparation?
I think with what's happening now, we can. I think we're in position now that we can, by having our ducks in a, like, we've been getting ready to be ready, right? Anybody that got a business and has things that right now being black and people want to know about being black, they're going to be buying your product and services right now. It's all about you having yourself ready to present.
Yes.
That 2-minute elevator pitch, ready to rock the roll. Have your budget ready, your 3-year plan, your marketing, have your location. I think that's what it's about now, finding your location, setting a date, and going for it.
Y'all hear about Honey Pot Co., that new poo poo wash?
Tell me about that.
Target.
Oh yeah, I heard.
And she made a commercial, and she said she wanted to represent. I don't remember everything verbatim that she said, but she said that she wanted to show black girls that they can be business owners too. And people try to drag her, and she even said it. She said, as black people, if we really want to make that dollar, we have to be even 10 steps, like you said, budget, marketing. How you gonna market? Who is your target audience? Know that stuff. I'm going to say stuff. Know that stuff. What's your mission? What's your goal? What's your 5-year plan? You can't just start a business. Y'all can look at my stuff and see, like, forming a DBA, forming an LLC, get your trademark, copyright your work, budget. Okay, Monica wanted to add to that.
Yeah, so I had the luxury of actually going to Tulsa, to Greenwood, and you go to the museum, and there's like it kind of looks like the Veterans Memorial, you know, Chantel, you know, you're in DC, how it's like black but it's etched in names. Well, their monument is etched in black businesses, and the amount of names of businesses was overwhelming me. Like the amount, like the numbers, like reading them out loud, row by row, column by column, it overwhelmed me, completely in tears. And then going inside of the museum, there's a picture of Alfred Woodard. She's you know, the actress, and she's from Tulsa. And she speaks about, and the quote is, to sum it up, Black Wall Street did not die with the riot. Doctors didn't stop being doctors. Dentists didn't stop having the skills to fix teeth. Seamstress did not stop sewing things together. Black Wall Street died when the black dollar could be spent elsewhere. So although we talk about the riots, that is not what killed Black Wall Street. That is not what killed our communities. And so going back to what Jay Rose is saying, this is not the white man. This is our behavior, our patterns, our choices of what we decide is worthy of our dollar. You know, and so I'm thankful that I got knowledge of self when I was 18, before I even knew better. Right, the brothers in Atlanta from New York was kicking the science to me, the Moorish science, the Egyptology. That's when I changed my name. That's where Sekhmet came from. Right, all that came to me when I was a teenager. So all of my adult life, I've been woke, and I've been making woke-ish decisions. You know, getting woker by the moment. Right,
real woke.
And that's why I decided been woke. Right, that's when I chose to go to Africa and invest in Africa. And so while we're having these conversations about starting businesses, I'm really tired of the basic conversation about starting businesses. You know, the 101. Even though like some people need it, that stuff you can get on the internet. We have to be doing business in Africa. We are African. We just had this conversation about us being from the motherland. There is and I don't know the name of the passage of the law, but Africa is opening up where they can now trade with themselves. And understand this, Africa has been twisted and turned to where they can't even trade with the country next door without it going through Europe first. So they have had their own oppression. They have had their own issues with the same white folks. They have had their own issues, but now like talking about within the last few months, they can now trade with each other. And so there are products that raw goods that we can contract and to have furniture being made over there from the raw product and being sent here instead of it having to go through Europe. Because a lot of these foods that we eat, Heinz, ketchup, a lot of these products that we consume that got white names on them are from the continent. And we can be having those conversations. We can be doing these deals. And there's a few organizations. It's an export and trade organization in Atlanta. His name's Titus. That helps people do that. There's a lot of people that help do that. So that's why I'm doing these mentorship calls. And if you see me on a mentorship call interviewing folks from Africa, I'm trying to figure out, and I'm always asking the question, how can we work with you? How can we work with you? What can we do? What do you need, sis? What do you need, bro? Because at the end of the day, it's bigger. The resources in Africa are abundant, and they need us just as much as we need them. So it's bigger than, you know, is it an LLC or an S Corp? That's basic. We have to really, really be invested in ourselves and all of our people.
Right.
Yes, baby.
Real quick, I just think this is a great time to look at our communities and really start talking about buying back those blocks right now. There's a lot of foreclosure neighborhoods. I mean, we've been gentrified for too long where we're letting in all these corporations, Asians and white Europeans coming in buying at the hood. And I think, you know, LeBron showed us, how a black school can be done and done right and really have a success story. You know, and he put his money where his mouth is. He went back to his community. And I think if all of them took that time, that initiative, just think about it. All the NBA players went back to their communities or a community or somewhere that they were from, this world would definitely be different. You know what I mean? If those dollars went to those type of things, if anybody did that, and even the government dollars, like where we make sure that each year, I mean, if they said the police funding, they was getting so many million a year, instead of defunding them, how about getting that together, reforming them, and then like taking half of that money and giving it towards what really needs to happen? Because I think what happens is there's a disconnect of where you fit, right? And there's a place where as a whether you're black, white, or indifferent, you're trying to figure out in the social status how you survive in life. And that's where we all have kind of got mixed up in this place called America, because we've all been, like you said, been given debt as a way of life. Like that's the only way we know is like we're always on that hamster wheel paying bills. No one that I know of, unless you get a 6-figure salary, is ever free, because even when you start making money, like I said the other day, the higher your taxes are. So
okay, well, thank you for that, and we're going to circle back to that buying back the block, because that is something that is on our topic. But let's move on to the next part. Breathe, mental health. I would say, I've had a therapist for 4 years. It was actually something that was very beneficial for me. And I know in the beginning, so a lot of us had that thing where we go to therapy. That was a white person thing. It wasn't a black person thing. And I had to get over that myself. So I'm happy that I did it. And I would always recommend it to anyone. That's my take on mental health. So I'm going to move, give this to Jasmine and Chantel. I'm going to start with Jasmine.
Hey y'all. So I just had like tips for us living through the revolution, because that's what I would like to say is happening right now. So as far as protesting, there's different ways that you can protest. Like, not everybody's gonna be able to be at the front lines, and I don't feel like people should feel guilty if they're not able to be at the front lines, or are too nervous to, or people should be guilting others to do that. Like I said, there's other ways that you can have conversations and just kind of protest for our people. Besides that, like I've said before, I think it's really important to unplug from like the news and social media. But in specific, I just found this out. It's really important to do it possibly before bed, like hours before you go to bed, because you don't want to go to bed and like that's kind of on your mind, and then you wake up to the same stuff every morning. And pretty much it, making sure that you're cultivating moments of joy for yourself as well, because as you know, we're like, this is what we talk about ever since the George Floyd situation. I mean, most Black people, if you're woke or you just even care, this is the gist of what we've been talking about for a month. So making sure that you're like still putting in things for yourself, cleaning, writing, reading, skateboarding, whatever it is that makes you happy, and just making sure that you're good so that you can keep fighting the fight. That's my only tips for mental health so far this week.
Okay. Thank you. Chantel?
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, wait, unmute yourself, Queen.
Sorry. So let me get a little vulnerable with y'all for a second. Because when we talk about mental health, oftentimes we talk about therapy, but that's not what we're talking about. Okay. And so I don't want to get so caught up on therapy that you miss the bigger picture here. A lot of times what we as Black people in America call culture is actually coping. Beating our kids, being angry, secrets in our family, things that we don't talk about, fights that we don't want white people to see. The ways that we perpetuate things that are harmful, that are painful, individually and as a community, oftentimes are a result of our coping. And I work with people of color who are Asian, who are from places that were colonized in Asia. I work with people who are African, who are from places that were colonized in Africa. Nobody escapes it. Nobody escapes it. So while you judge your parents and your grandparents and all of them, I want you to just think, maybe I'm trying to do the same thing in a different way, and maybe I'm working hard and not smart. Because maybe everyone in my family is scared to be alone. And what my mom did was different than what I did, but I have the same fear. And if we don't talk about that stuff, if we don't talk about, well, why does my mom not give me hugs? Why is my dad so hard on me? Where did my parents learn to abuse? How come my family doesn't respond to molestation when it happens in our family? Those are fair questions to ask. They're not hypotheticals. So if there's anything that you can do for yourself, is to start to really have compassion and kindness for yourself and the bad habits you're developing as a result of being exposed to all sorts of traumas and microaggressions and all sorts of things every single day of your colored life, right? That's what that is. They do studies on that. It doesn't matter what color you are. If you're not a white person in this country, your life expectancy, your health is impacted. It's the equivalent of a big T, like you having a big trauma happen. Just living here does that to people. So when you're thinking about mental health, don't think about therapy. Think about the community you belong to. Think about the family you belong to. Think about how many ways there's pain that does not get addressed because we don't have permission to do it. And this generation, maybe you do. So if you feel like you have some space, if you feel like you're in a place where you can start doing the work, have some kindness and compassion for the fact that it ain't been easy to do this work so far. And so maybe you're the first generation who can survive and cope at the same time.
Yeah, thank you. Monica wanted to say something? I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Chantel said, when you do self-healing, you immediately start the healing process of those that are around you.
Yes.
You know, it's just like how you can tell when a storm is coming, right? Because energy will precede the event. It's the same thing when there's something positive going on. When you start to say, you know, forgiving, if like, you know, sometimes like when I'm upset, I'll get on my knees and I'll forgive that person. Even if we still still going through that struggle, I'll go ahead and forgive them just because I don't want to have it weighing me down. Yes, there's still things that we got to talk about. There's still things that need to be addressed, but it's not going to weigh me down. Exactly. And immediately that changes the environment. It changes the conversation. It changes how we function. I'm a businesswoman. I can't walk around beefing with everybody. Period. Like there's so much that I want to accomplish that the moment that I'm angry about this or I'm angry about that, it shortens my dreams and it stops me from being able to really achieve what I want to achieve. And so I'm quick to forgive. Now, I'm not the person that'll be like, oh, you can shoot down my family member and I'm gonna forgive you for that. That's a whole other thing, right? Because I do believe in the grieving process. But like when it comes to people in my life and to what Chantel's saying, like we're all coping. I'm gonna forgive you. We're gonna deal with the issue, but I understand because we actually grew up together and we're dealing with the same issues just differently.
Yes.
You know, and so
that's where the healing is. That's where the healing is. Because if somebody sees you deal with something successfully that they've never been able to figure out, you imagine what that does to a person. That just there's no way you can't see that. You know, you can't unsee it. This person healed themselves. I've been trying to do that for my whole life.
Yeah. You know, I think, you know, the piggyback off what y'all are saying is that like in the process of healing, right, especially for me being the eldest of 7, and when you're going through the process of healing, first you got to know what puts you in your peaceful place, what puts you in your sanctuary. And some people don't even know how the hell they're supposed to heal. And so what I had to learn was I'm a Scorpio, right? So I'm a water sign. I like to be around the water. That helps me. If I go to the water and I can sit for 10 minutes, then I can really ask myself, like, how am I feeling? Sometimes you have to stop, meditate, or whatever it is you do, pray, to really know to really identify the issue. And I know that once you do finally find a way to heal yourself, people around you will be like, oh, wow, she heals herself. But then there comes another stigmatism because they didn't get to heal. So they might have an envy towards you because they're still trying to figure out how the hell did you cross the bridge. So, you know, I always say, like, you know, people come to dance class or they come to, you know, any type of function that makes them feel good. You know what makes you feel good so you can be able to cross over that board. Because if you don't know what makes you feel good, if you're not doing your self-care, if you're not doing, you know, your happy dance, like I think we talked about in one of our episodes, wake up and dance or something like that. Like you can't just sit there and just heal yourself. You got to know what helps you heal yourself. If you in the Stones, what kind of Stones you getting? If you in the Cars, what kind of, know what it is that helps you come to your happy place so you can deal with within. But if you don't know what that is, you're gonna be stuck. Yes, Trina.
And just to say one thing off that, it's okay to not always be in a happy place. Like that's one of the things that we have to also adjust and learn. Like when you're having that moment, whatever that is, own it and be accountable for that moment. Because I think, like you said, Chantel, so many times we so busy coping and being busy that we don't deal with the trauma, that we don't deal with our issues. So then we don't realize that we're projecting that in our relationships, in our work, and in things that we do because we are not feeling like we're enough, right? Mm-hmm. So finding out what that is that we're searching for. And because, you know, it's easy to say finding your happy place, but as I get older, I'm meeting people, like you said, depression it becomes more real as you get older because real life hits you. All the things that you thought as a child, all the glitz and glamour and the fun and the parties, that ain't fun no more, right? Real life is there. And now you're trying to find your purpose, things that make you feel rich when you wake up in the morning and your soul to be on fire, right? And have that desire all the time. It's hard to keep when life and bills and a windshield. The other day I went outside. Y'all was talking about the Cosmo. I went outside, my windshield was cracked. How does that happen? Right?
Mm-hmm.
But had I let that take my day, or do I say, you know what? I can move through this. This is just something that we've already talked about, how the universe is going to try to take me off my thing, right? So how do I find that moment? And that's not easy to do.
Mm-mm.
It's not. Like, let's be real about it. If you don't have a support system, you don't have people that love you, if you don't love yourself, because that's so hard to find out how to love yourself when we've all been taught to love others, look for love or love somebody else. So when you're growing up and to figure out how that me loving me means to say no sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's real. Like me saying no when I'm not in my good state of mind. I'm not in a happy place, so I don't want to pretend that I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay with you? Can I just lay in my bed and do absolutely nothing? And people should be okay with that. Like, because you're not in the mood to be bothered. You should be okay being okay to be not okay.
Just like it's okay to cry. You know, when I say happy place, that wasn't an easy place for me to go. So I want to put out there that that's just easy to say, go to the happy place. You know what I mean?
No, I get it.
I mean, that's.
And I also feel like, sorry.
I just want to say, as Black people, we're taught, especially men, not to cry.
Right.
At my age now, I've learned that it's okay to cry, and I feel so much better
cleansing
after I freaking cry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Me too, girl. Me too, girl. I'm be a cry baby, girl, but I feel so clean.
I feel good.
And I can forgive you. I can forgive a person after I cry. Go ahead, Jazz. Jazz has something.
No. I was just gonna say, I feel like it's important too, in our Black and brown communities, like you guys were saying, like finding that happiness. I also feel like it's important to say, like, not to find false happiness. I don't know about other people's families, but my own family, like on both sides, they struggle with self-medicating and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of Black and brown people do that, like, because they don't have control over their circumstances. The only thing they can control is to, like, that escape for a moment. So they'll just kind of turn to drinking or drugs or whatever. So even if it's done in a way where it's not necessarily like an addiction, making sure that you're catering to it in a healthy way so it doesn't turn into addiction or just something that you just always ignore and it just builds up more and more, you know?
Yes. All right, ladies, we spent some time on that. So let's move on to our next subject because the time is ticking. We all, very passionate about this. We extended our show to 30 minutes so we could talk more, y'all. Okay. So we were talking about this earlier. We already talked about this. We were talking about buy back the block. So I think we pretty much touched on that. But anyone else want to touch on buying back the block?
I just want to say something really cool that I learned the other night on someone's town hall, or I forget what it was, something to the effect. But there is something called like these community kind of like land ownerships that you can do like with your nonprofit, which is super dope. Like I didn't know that was a thing that you could do, right? So I was like, oh, I get a new way to get real estate. And with your nonprofit, you can run up in there and get a grant and the government ends up paying for your land. Come on, people. Like, that's amazing. So I want people to start thinking of different ways of buying back the block. It doesn't necessarily have to be you as a private consumer. And there are also, investors who can just come in and say, okay, so this is how, and we have Black investors that can come and actually teach us these things, right? And say, hey, you can get this kind of loan, really quick cash, purchase the building, and then roll it over into a mortgage, right? So there are different ways to buy back the block. And I want us to start thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, that was, I don't think I knew that part, but yes. Do our research. We also say do our research. Some people there's so much research in Google, people get lost. So follow someone that that is, is giving you correct information or you feel that is, like Queen Candace, and keep following it instead of jumping all over the place, because it's right now when the internet is so much information, and I don't want to always tell people to do their research because they can get lost in the sauce. Okay, so J Rose, what's up, girl?
Hey, so I recently learned, I watched like a short video about it. I wanted to continue doing more research, but I was really excited about it. So if anybody wants to go out and do some independent research, you can actually purchase airspace, like the airspace above like a building, like in the city, or like something like that. So when they build up, or when they sell the property, the building itself, you actually have to get a portion of that because you own like some aspect of like the airspace, which is crazy. The fact that like, how am I today years old and hearing about this? You know what I mean? Like these are things that we're not taught from a young age. Like I would love to have conversations, with like young people at the, teenagers, to tell them about how to buy air rights. That's what it was. Air rights, or how to, do a communal pool where you can buy a building together, and then run your own businesses out of it, rent out other parts of it. There's like, so many ways, and like none of that was ever told. Like nobody, they told me you go to school, you get a job, and you buy a house, and that's it. You get a car. Like nobody was like, invest your money, make your money work for you, get multiple streams of income. Like nobody was talking about any of that when I was young. And I think that like these are things that we need to start not only just doing ourselves as the adults, but like setting up the next generation and putting them on, because we can't wait for them to be our age to figure it out. Like, and there's older people than us that didn't put us onto those things. Like they didn't even like think like that it was okay to like put us on, and they know they didn't want to share. They didn't share that knowledge, and that's crazy. So let's not do that. Let's break that right there, and let's pass on this knowledge to our youth.
Thank you so much for that, J. Rose. You're right, because we need to keep passing that on to our youth. And you're right, as a thing with Black folks, we don't want to. Some people have that mindset. I don't want them to beat me or do better than me, or I don't want them to up me. We got to get out of that. These are the things that we need to do so we can have generational wealth, not just for one Black family like Beyonce and Jay-Z. Let's have 1 million of them, okay? All right, so let's move on to our next subject. Thank y'all.
All right, so I wanted to add something.
Oh,
I want to add something, if I could do that.
Okay, Monica, what's
Yeah,
up?
so I just had 2 points. So one point is, if you don't have the money to buy the block, respect the block that you're on. Respect where you live, respect your community. Don't let people live in your community. Like, still build a community wherever you are. And then there's also other ways to buying a block. It's about purchasing cheap land and then putting trailer parks on it. Build a trailer park. Everybody don't want to live in a mansion. There's some people that just want to be in the woods. Like for me, I ain't gonna have no trailer, but I might need a trailer while I'm building my house. Like I don't want to be on nobody's block. I want to be that auntie that it takes you an hour to drive out and come see. And so by buying cheap land, you might have 10 friends that want to do the tiny houses and want to live, very minimalistic. So there's ways that you can play with your money, and just know that you're not keeping up with anybody. And that's what Yamina was saying. You're not keeping up with anybody. Really know the world that you want to live in. Because to J. Rose's point, people couldn't tell us because people didn't know. Because if they knew, they'd be living that way. They didn't know. The person that could teach me is the person that lives an hour away out in the country. Can't nobody tell me about living out in the city, And so like we all just have different things that we want. So I think we should just be clear about that. But the opportunity is now.
Yeah. The opportunity really, 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 really is now. Okay, thank you for that, Monica. So let's go.
For sure.
BB, I hope I'm not saying that wrong. BB. As Black people, we need to be social, economic, independent, and development. Yes, thank you for asking. She been adding some comments. Okay, we have another comment. What did she say? Eileen, sorry. So real, Monica, right on. When others see chaos, we see opportunities. All right. Okay. All right. So our next topic, owning our own schools. So we were talking about this in our meeting of how many of us have had Black teachers growing up. So I want to go back to Jay Rose because you were in and out. I want to, hear your voice a little bit more. Sorry, one thing, Boulevard Boo said that was a great topic, gals. We must teach our kids our culture. They must know where we're coming from and the pain we suffer so that they will have an understanding of racism, yes, and apartheid, yes. All right, Jay Rose. Thank you very much, Boulevard. All right, Jay Rose. We're talking about owning our own.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it. We need it. We need to. It's not about writing our own history. And I think I posted that earlier today about like Black history is American history. Like they need to stop like separating it. It's history. It's our history, whether you want to whitewash it, but it's all our history, and I'm all for it. I'm all for like teaching about things. Like my daughter is 14 and came to me and was like, luckily she's been to like we've taken her to different places to educate herself about Black history. So she's gone to the African American Museum in DC. We took her to Martin Luther King's the museum and his house out in Atlanta. So she's been exposed to all that stuff. But she's telling me how like a lot of her friends now are like, oh my gosh, like I'm learning more about Black history on TikTok than I ever learned in school. Like white kids and Black kids are learning about stuff they was never even even in their own homes. It wasn't a conversation. Even within ourselves in our own community, we don't talk about it. So we can have our own schools where we can really like educate our youth on the things that they're not taught in school. Like there's things that we should be teaching our children that aren't being taught, right? Aside from our history, like financial freedom, learning about credit and how that works, classes on like resume building and volunteer service. And, there's so many things that like a lot of kids don't get exposure to because they're in inner cities but they do in like suburban areas, and that's crazy. So we build our own schools. I'm here for it. I would love to be a teacher or some type of like social worker or something. I would love to be involved in a school for that because we need it. We need it. Our school books are not telling the truth. They're not being real. They're over here celebrating Columbus like he really discovered a world where people already lived on. Like it's crazy. Even Donald Trump taking credit for Juneteenth. Like what the hell is that about? Just because it's new to white people doesn't mean it never existed. And that's what we need to put in our schools.
Thank you for that, Jay Rose. Let's see, Queen Candace, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing really cool. Another dope thing that I learned. So all of these town halls, you know what this actual racial thing did was bring out all of the educators, right? So people like me who are like in the community speaking on financial literacy and all these great things. Now we're like all in these little hubs dropping all of these gems, right? So another gem that was dropped on me is that it is possible to develop and purchase and establish and have your own school because someone in the Black community has recently done it. And so a lot of things that we think are like absolutely impossible and beyond us because it's such a big idea is actually very possible, right? Just with the correct structure and knowing the legalities of it. And also, like there's a whole bunch of like these empty school buildings in the South, right? So if we all just came together and was like, yo, I wanna buy this property and have my school here, it doesn't always necessarily have to be in New York and these big cities, right? So we have to start thinking out of the box, people. Think out of the box. Get out your comfort zone. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, the educators are definitely coming out. All of us are coming out. I'm one of them educators too. We coming out, okay? So we continue to do that. So since we're talking about buying back the block, buying Black, owning our own schools, we need a plan. We need a community action plan. And we also need a pledge for our people. And we need to come up with a plan. So let's just throw some points out there. And then we can even talk about this again in our next Make Lemonade on Tuesdays at 3. Young Boss Media said there's been a surge in Black homeschooling and homeschool collectives for this exact reason. Yep. So, ladies, let's throw out some action plans, some things that we can do. With all the things that we talked about, what can we do and what can our audience do if they're thinking about, okay, I want to do what these ladies are doing. Okay, so how do I start this? How do I do this? What do I need to do? Yes, Monica.
So I know the first thing that I did was I created a pledge to myself, and it was a sovereignty agreement. I am a sovereign being. Before I am anybody's child, before I am anybody's citizen, before I belong to any group, I am a sovereign entity, and I broke all contracts with anybody or anything. I don't belong to anybody. I am free to make decisions on my own, right? And that clearing meant that I'm clearing myself from any type of negativity that comes with even being a woman or being a person of color or being this or whatever, just letting it go. I am a free being to make choices on my own. Giving me the power to, when I speak something, it's going to manifest immediately, and being very clear of that. And that is my expectation. So when I speak to somebody, I'm speaking life into them, right? And so as far as action is concerned, I am very focused on making sure that all of my actions, every single one, I don't leave the house without an agenda, is going to have a positive impact on the people around me, simply because I want a positive impact to come back. That is the only space that I am willing to live in. You can't come in my house with dirty shoes on. You got to leave them at the door. That is the only space that I'm willing to live in. So I think being very clear about like what world you want to live in is super important before making rules or declaring something. It's like, how do you want it to be? And that's why, like with Black Lives Matter right now, it's like, what are your goals? What do you want your world to look like? Irregardless of how anybody else is living, what do you want it to be?
Yep, exactly. Thank you for that, Monica. That was powerful. Chantel, would you like to add to that as we develop our action plan?
I think that there's only two things that I want to put out there. One is that it may be obvious from the conversation we had and from what Trina was saying, but like the goal is not to be happy all the time, every day, every minute. The goal is to pass through things and not allow them to control you. Just be flexible. So in terms of an action plan, notice your feelings, notice your body, start to notice what makes you feel worse, start to notice what makes you feel better, because you're not going to always feel great, but you want to know how to feel better and you want to know what makes it worse. That's about controlling your emotions, your reality, your experiences, and your relationships. If you can notice that as much as you can start to move towards what feels better on purpose. And that should always be a goal in terms of self-care, is just knowing how to do that for yourself. Now, on an organizational level, I have a mental health practice. What that means is that I have to look through mental health history and my practice and try to understand, what am I doing that actually is a result of colonization and white supremacy? Can I make sure that my clients can show up as all of themselves and get the help that they need? So if you're somebody who owns anything, if you're a person who works in any sort of administrative or managerial position, I challenge you to look at your organization and say, is it honoring the history of the people that we serve? Is it honoring the practices and the communities that we actually say we value? Because some places they serve Black and brown communities, but what they don't do is know Black and brown history. What they don't do is honor Black and brown ways of learning, knowing, healing, talking, communicating, wearing their clothes. They don't honor those things. And so we have to be very, very careful that if we're going to start businesses, if we're going to start practices, it doesn't matter who's at the top. An organization can have a white supremacist lean, no matter what the leadership looks like, and it goes from the top down. So please make sure that you're holding yourself accountable, that if you're creating spaces for people, that you're accountable for the space you create. Try not to replicate it. Don't be content to become an oppressor.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Trina, would you like to add to that? Unmute yourself, lady.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. I just want to ride on everybody else, like Chantel said. You know, we are all, and Monica said, you know, we are all here, spiritual beings in a life life journey, right? We're all trying to figure out how to be better people, how to give this world a better meaning. And I say, as we are in the spiritual being in this human experience, that it's just be nice to each other. You know, take the time to, you know, even if somebody's not nice to you, be the reflection of what you want to feel in life. And that's what I try to do. Like, I know I'm not going to always have a good day. And on those days, I choose to stay in and I take a little extra nap and I take some time to pray and look at what I'm grateful for. And I have to reflect, because sometimes, you know, that's the trauma in me, because I've been used to coping. As Chantel said, we've all been taught how to cope. But to be honest with yourself, to look at that man in the mirror and the stuff that you don't like about yourself sometimes, those are the areas that make you really grow up. Fixing that area about you that's not pretty all the time, that got an attitude, that, you know, when you got to check yourself, chin check yourself. I think that's the best lesson for me, is that I've grown through that part, that I know I'm not perfect and I'm okay with that. And I'm working to be better every day, to be a good person. I'm never going to be perfect, but I can be a good person every day of my life. You know, and I have kids that I want them to understand that, you know, our choices and our actions is, you know, what you give out is what you get. And a lot of time you'll get more of what you don't give. Like, you get more, like I said, you get more bees that with honey. And I believe that. I believe the more you give out love and honesty, you get that. And all them bitter Bettys can't hang with you, because they can't deal with that real. I'd rather be Trina Be Real every day. People think it's a stage name, but it's really how I live my life. When I wake up in the morning, I go look in the mirror and I say, girl, you got to be real with yourself before you go out here and deal with anybody else. And that's really how I've been living my life for these last 40 years. It's like, I want to be real with me, because if I'm real with me, I can be real with anybody else, whatever I'm dealing with. And I think that's what makes me, you know, able to deal. So I just say, be real with yourself every day and love yourself. And that's my 1-2.
Hey, I know we're wrapping up, but I just want to add to the action piece, because I think what we're all really saying is, and just add on to that is, like, what's your contribution to the world? What's your contribution to your community? And it will look different based on who you are as a being. We're all sent here to do different things, but utilizing your gift and your spirit, you have an opportunity to make a great contribution to the community. And if nothing else, if we don't get into like the practicalness of entrepreneurship or this or that, you know, what's practical is looking in the mirror, like Trina said, and like asking, like, what is my contribution as a human being? What is my contribution? And not just my contribution to my family, but it's everywhere. Like, what is my contribution to the show? I need to make sure that, you know, the sound's good, y'all look good. I need to make sure, you know, like, this is a good show. It's getting out there. That's my contribution. I think that's what we're all getting at. If we don't get to like a tangible action plan for different categories, I think that's something that somebody could take away with. It's just, you know, what's your contribution to this world?
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Monica. I know we are over time, and all of us have put our input into what we are going to do. So take all this information that you heard, that you learned, because you learned a lot of information from all of us, and put it into your community. Talk to your people, talk to your family, talk to yourself, and even journal it. You know, definitely, my ladies here, you'll be able to follow them. You can DM them if they have any questions. If you have any questions, we got Trina Be Real, Jay Rose, Queen Candace, Chantel, Monica Grant, myself, Yamina Lejean, and Jasmine Ballou. She had to leave a little earlier. You know, it's important as Black people, it's Juneteenth. If you don't know too much about it, learn about it, research about it, ask your people. And I enjoyed having this discussion with you ladies, and I enjoyed talking to our audience. And we will be seeing you next week on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock for Make Lemonade. I'm your girl, Yamina Lejean, and I'm signing out. Ciao.